Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wrecked by Art. This is Cindy Ingram, and I am excited to be with you today to talk about some art and feelings and life, especially focused on the creative process and authenticity today. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you're aware that I have an upcoming program. There's a waiting list for it. It hasn't yet been opened, but it will be open in the next few weeks. It's going to be called Becoming Art. And I also will have a live in-person retreat that I'm offering in January to start the year off with intention and art and magic. So make sure you're on my email list so that you get all the information about that. You can go to cindyingram.com/becoming to get onto the Becoming Art program waitlist. But today we're going to talk about a reality show. And I have to tell you, I have always been a sucker for competition reality shows. I do like some of the dramatic ones too, like I love Survivor, but the ones that I love best are the ones where people are making things that they love. And it shows people passionate about creation and art and really putting in all of their self and talent and love and heart into their creation. And it shows you just how much it matters to them. And that is, I love those shows. So Top Chef, The Great British Baking Show, The Great Pottery Throw Down, Blown Away, the one with the makeup, whatever that's called. I can't remember the name of it. Anytime someone's creating something, I'm in. I get Keith Brymer Jones when he cries over the pots in Great Pottery Throwdown. There is something just so holy about watching someone pour their heart into a thing and then be seen for it and celebrated for it. It is amazing. And I've been binge watching Great Pottery Throwdown. I'm late to that one, and I'm in season 7, I think. And I've watched all of them over the last month or two. And it's so exciting too when they're all together in a community of people who love the thing that they love. Oh, it's so powerful and wonderful. And that's what I hope will happen in my program, Becoming Art. It happened in my program over the summer too. It's just people doing the thing that you love too, and you getting to do it alongside them. It's beautiful. But today we're specifically going to be talking about Top Chef. And I'm a few months late. This was the season from last year, but I wrote it down on my list of ideas for Wrecked by Art, and that felt like a delicious thing to talk about today. So if you are a fan of Top Chef and you have not yet watched the Canada season, which just wrapped up in like May-ish to 2025, I will be giving you a spoiler. So if you have not watched that and you don't want to find out the winner, stop now. After you've watched the season, come back and then listen to this episode. So I've given you warning. You will be finding out the winner. It's still good to watch, even if you know who's going to win, but that's okay. So I want to talk about Tristen Epps, and he was the winner of season 22 of Top Chef in Canada. And I loved his sort of character arc. I loved his passion. I just get chills thinking about it right now. Like, there's something so special about not only his talent and his technique, but about his authenticity and about his trust in the creative process. And he really reminded me of everything I believe and love about creativity. So in this episode, we're going to talk about creative trust. We're going to talk about the power of being deeply yourself in your work and how to do that, and what it means to keep going even when you don't know what you're making yet. So I'm going to tell you a little story about one of the episodes. And since it's been a while since I watched, I don't remember exactly what episode it was. It was like somewhere in the last half. So Tristan is a chef who makes Afro-Caribbean cuisine. And he says, this is a quote from his Instagram, he shares the story of his ancestors in every dish. And that is true. So when you watch shows like this, you see that there are a couple different kinds of chefs. There are ones who are just sort of creative forces. They put things together in interesting ways. They're just really creative and interesting. Bailey in this season was like that. She just did wacky things and it worked. Cesar was another one who made a whole dessert out of pickle with ice cream and like a custard tart. I mean, wild. So there's those types of really creative chefs who just really understand taste and flavor and it works out. There's also the chefs that are really stuck in the way they do things and have always done things, and then they make things that they already know, like they make things that from past restaurants that they know is going to work. They don't really make new things for the challenges, they just pull from what they've already done in the past. There's the types of chefs who really overthink the challenge and they try really hard to impress the judges. And we know when making art, when you're really focused on your viewer and you're really focused on making something good and you're focused on impressing people, often that's your least powerful art. That the art that comes from you and your heart is infinitely better, in my opinion, than art that is made to impress. And then there's artists like Tristan who have a point of view, who have a story to tell, who have a mission of what they want to accomplish in the world with their art. And they deeply know who they are and what they have to say and don't do anything that doesn't feel right to them, according to their values, their authenticity, their mission, etc. And those people are often the most powerful chefs, the one with a point of view, a really strong point of view, and a really strong understanding of who they are. So to show Tristan's creative process, and this one I just really loved, there was this episode where he didn't have an idea. And, they're told the challenge and everyone is sketching and planning, mapping out their flavors. And he was just sitting there blank. He had no idea what he was going to do. He had no inspiration and no clarity. He just didn't know. And what he did not do is he didn't panic. He didn't try to force it. He didn't try to fake it. He trusted that something would come. And so he went to the grocery store and he walked the aisles. And when he was there, seeing the ingredients, touching the texture, smelling the produce, it started to come together. And then he ended up making a dish that was completely his. He followed the thread that showed up. And I'm pretty sure he won that episode. I can't remember what episode it was. So it's helpful. I could try to go figure it out, but that's not really part of the point. And it really did show the creative process is that you don't always start with an idea. You don't always have this flash of inspiration. And the idea is going to come when it comes. You can't control creative inspiration. What you can control is presence. What you can control is showing up. What you can control is faith in the creative process, faith in yourself, and the understanding that art reveals itself within the making. And the creative process is messy. And we're taught that creativity means you have to have the idea first. You have to know what you're going to do. You have to be inspired. But that's not how it really works. And that is what kept me from creating art for a really long time. I can't remember if I've told this story on the podcast or not, but basically, I studied art history, went into museum education, became an art teacher, eventually started my business helping art teachers teach art appreciation and art criticism, art history. And I stopped making art basically during college and didn't make art for a good 20 years. I was doing creative things, starting my business, I was writing, that sort of thing. But the actual making of art, I didn't do because what I thought you had to do was you had to have an idea first. You had to have a picture of it in your head, which is funny because I don't even have very clear pictures in my head. You have to have the picture in your head, and then you have to have the talent to like make that picture come to life. But in my experience, that is not how it works. The idea almost never shows up first. What shows up is a nudge or a fragment or a feeling, a curiosity. And then when I follow that, that's when the shape starts to emerge. That's when the idea starts to solidify. Or maybe like the initial nudge or idea morphs into something else by following the process. It's never the thing that you envisioned is equal to the thing that ends up being created. There always is a meandering, there always is a change, there always is a process. And that process to me is so sacred and so wonderful. And I've said it before that my book is, I love that I have a book that I've written. I think it's a beautiful book. I think you should read it. I think everyone should read it. Art is About Being Whole, a memoir. But to me, when I look at that book, I see it as a memento, as a memory of the process of writing it. And the process of writing it was so amazing and wonderful because it led me in so many different directions that I never would have expected. And it taught me so much. And I went through so much and healed so much during that process. And my initial idea was nothing like what actually happened. And what actually happened was way better than that initial idea. And so what Tristan showed in that process, and he had to work fast. I mean, those challenges are fast. They don't allow you to meander for too long, but he had faith and trust in the process and he followed it and didn't force it. And when you're in a moment where you don't know exactly what's next, creatively or otherwise, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. You're just at the beginning of something and you have to trust that. You have to keep moving and trust that you'll figure it out and trust in the process. And Tristan trusted that blank page. He trusted his instincts and he let the act of creating, of being present, of being open, of being in the process. That's what called the art forward. He was open to inspiration, open to connection, and staying engaged in the process. And another thing I really loved about Tristan is that he refused to make something that didn't feel like him. He wasn't trying to impress the judges with, his fancy techniques or flashy trends. He made food of his culture. He made food of his childhood. He made food of his ancestors, and he made food of his heart. And that's what made him so magnetic because you could feel that it was his. And it wasn't just good food. It was a story and it was a memory and it was a lineage. And you could tell when the judges were served his food, there was a holiness, a sacredness to it. And you could tell that the judges felt that. And that's why he won so many of the challenges. In his season, he won the most challenges. He won 8 of the 26 challenges. I was talking to one of my coaching clients recently, and they had a little bit of imposter syndrome of, my art isn't good enough. I'm not good enough. Who am I to do this? But that is not what I've been looking at art as a career since, when did I start? Basically since 2000. That was the first time I worked in a museum, year 2000. So that's 25 years. Oh, I can stop saying 20 years. Now I can say 25. I've been looking at art for 25 years and studying art, being moved by art, being wrecked by art. And it is never about your talent is better than everybody else's talent today. Okay, actually, let me give that a caveat. That is not true now in contemporary times. Might have been true in the Renaissance, right? When they were all making the same types of things, in the Baroque period, when they were all making the same types of things, like everybody was making, some version of Bible stories, right? In Baroque time. But now art is different. Art is about the artist and their point of view. Some artists are really excited and moved by science. I think about James Turrell or Olafur Eliasson, and they're really focused on light and the way light plays off things, and they're really curious about that, right? That's something interesting to them. Then you look at artists who are more politically minded, and then you have artists who are more, telling the story of their cultures and integrating contemporary life into their culture. You have artists who are telling personal stories and exploring feeling. You have artists who are representing the world in interesting ways. Like every artist has a different mission, has a different point of view, has a different interest, a different curiosity in the world, a different skill set, a different media that they like to work in. And you can't compare them because it's all just preference. And I remember when I started making art again, one of the first times I went back to a museum after making art again, I was at the Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth, and I saw this painting that was up on the wall, and I was like, wait a minute. I actually didn't like it. I thought it was like not balanced, and I was like, it didn't look good. And I was like, well, that's up here. Who's to say my art can't be? It's like, it's really interesting now that art is blown open. But I think the thing that really ties all art together right now is that it is about the individual artist. It is about not a version of ourselves that we like polish up to be palatable. We're celebrating artists for the thing that is like true to them. And it's the truth of them. And there's many versions of truth, but in art, we're going for the truth of the artist. And so when I was talking to my client, I'm like, you're an amazing artist. You have a very distinctive style and you have a very distinctive point of view. So that's what you need. And you can't compare yourself to someone else because someone else isn't you. But here's the thing about authenticity is that it doesn't just happen. You have to deeply know yourself. And so that means you have to do the work. It means you have to heal the places that told you your voice didn't matter. You have to heal the places that told you that your truth was too much. If you are a writer, creator, artist, whatever your art form, here we're talking about Tristan as a chef. It's true for any art form, is the more you know who you are, the more you know you're whole as you are, that your point of view matters, that you matter, that you're worth it, that you deserve to have your art celebrated. You've chosen to be an artist. You've chosen the path of having to do the work, of having to heal, of having to do the hard things and really look inward and really look into your shadow and do deep, deep work. And I know that the more I've done that work, the more I've peeled back layers of identities that are not me. And I've returned to the root of like who I am at the core and discovered who I am at the core, the more my creative voice has changed. And it has become way less about proving myself. I would say, or in the early years of my business, I wanted to impress people. I wanted to be perfect. And I wanted to prove how good I was and how smart I was and how impressive I was and what good ideas I had. And the more healing I've done, the more it's been about, let's share who I am. And I'm not perfect and I'm a bit of a mess. And there's a lot to me that I didn't know before. And I've changed a lot about who I am. but it's become more about sharing who I am with the world, knowing that there are people out there who need to hear what I have to say. And that's what keeps me going. And so it's less about the output and the product, but it's more about the sharing, the offering, the process, and the connection, because that's what art is connection from you as the creator to someone else, and the magic that happens when the creator and the viewer or participant in whatever it is you're offering, the magic that happens between the two. And so if you're not sure what your creative voice is yet, and you're still on that healing journey, I would say please keep going and getting to know who you are. Keep making, keep listening, keep following your nudges, keep listening to your intuition. Your truth will rise through your work. And the more you really focus on knowing who you are and what you want, that will begin to show up. Another thing I loved about Tristan is he's featuring a cuisine that isn't commonplace in sort of the high up chef world, right? Like the James Beard, Michelin star, fine dining world. He's doing Afro-Caribbean cuisine and kind of elevating it to these other places. And he's taking his culture and he's saying, my culture matters too. People like me matter. And he talked about how Marcus Samuelsson was a mentor to him. And Marcus Samuelsson was on like Top Chef Masters, and he's like a super famous celebrity chef, restaurateur person. And he kind of did the same type of thing with his cuisine. He was born in Ethiopia and then grew up in Sweden. And then he does Ethiopian Swedish cuisine. But he was a mentor to Tristan. And Tristan, seeing Marcus Samuelsson representing African cuisine on a high level, opened up the door for people like Tristan to come through. And he says he wanted to do the same for people after him. And he's taking this cuisine and elevating it. He's using his authenticity and creativity to create this beautiful work. He has this mission of helping people after him. And it's just so powerful because it has such a broad impact and such a deep impact on the people that come after us. And I did my Ugly Zine workshop recently, and we were talking about how when we were children, we didn't have words for a lot of the things that we identify now. Like autism was limited to like white male cases, very stereotypically presenting. We didn't have words for a lot of the gender stuff, like non-binary and trans. Like a lot of people didn't even know those things were options. Like I knew 2 gay people growing up that were out. More have come out since, but we didn't have that. And now those of us kind of speaking out and sharing about our queerness, we are opening the door for people who come after us. And one of the people in the Ugly Zine workshop said, we survived to tell our story. And it's really powerful to me. The more you are who you are, the more you share who you are with the world. And I believe that artists are called to do that. It is part of our DNA. You know, we have this knowing that we have something to say and then we have an impact to make. And what can be really scary is that impact is coming from the depths of who you are. And like the impact that you are going to make in the world as a creator, as an artist, is deeply connected to who you are as a person, which means you have to be okay with who you are as a person, which means you have to do a lot of work. And so I think my invitation to you is, if you resonate with that. If you know that you are a creator, if you're an artist, whatever your art form is, and you're not creating, or maybe you're stuck, or maybe you're in a blank space and the idea is not landing and you don't know what to make next and you're wondering if your work even matters, my invitation to you, do what Tristan did, go to the grocery store, whatever that means to you, step into the space of making. If you're an artist, grab some supplies and just kind of play around. If you're a writer, just write stream of consciousness, whatever it is, step into that space of making. Let your body lead. Let your intuition lead. Follow what it tells you to do and trust the ingredients. Trust that you have what you need in you and that you don't need the whole plan right now. You just need the next small step, that you just need the next yes. And Tristan didn't win because he played the game. He won because he played it honestly. And he brought himself, his people, his food, and his full heart to the experience. And he let it shine. And he trusted in who he is as a chef, as an artist. And creativity is not about being impressive. It's not about being the best or being good or whatever it is. It's about being true. And that is something that we get to practice every time we show up to the page, to the canvas, to the kitchen, to the theater, whatever it is. So if this resonated with you, if you're craving a space to show up as your full creative self, if you need help working through finding yourself as an artist, even in that messy middle, I would love for you to join the Becoming Art Waitlist. That's my new program. I also take one-on-one clients, so you can visit my website and book a one-on-one call with me to see if we're a good fit together, or just stay with your process. Go to the grocery store because your art is waiting for you. Okay, that is all for today. I will be back in 2 weeks. I'm going to the river next week, and I will be floating down a river with no cell service, and I will just be in nature, delighting in the peace of that. So I'll be back hopefully in 2 weeks, or maybe 3, depending on how long it takes me to recover when I get back. And you can follow along with me on TikTok, also on Threads. And yeah, go get creating. Share yourself, share your true self, find your true self, because the world needs what you can make. All the links to the waitlist and all of that will be in the show notes. And I will see you next time for Wrecked by Art. Bye.